Welcome to week 3. Now this, to me, is the most important thing. What I'm teaching you about when we get to the paper is all about taking all this random musical alphabet and these intervals and whatever else and turning it into music, right? So you're playing in the C major scale. There are thousands of chords that you could use. Most of them are wrong, okay? You learn how to apply the simplest stuff to the C major scale, and then all of a sudden you've got access to every chord and every extension of every chord and all these different things that work in C major. And once you understand what works in C major, you then move on to the next one, you move on to the next one, and all of a sudden you can be playing anywhere and you know what to do. This is just the tip though, it's just the tip of the iceberg. This is supposed to be the most basics. So watch this video. When your curiosity's piked, if there's anything that you don't understand, if there's anything that you want further study on, just Google it, YouTube it. YouTube is an amazing resource. Let's get to the paper now and finalize this essential theories. Maybe I'll update the essential theories in the future when I decide that there's something that I missed, or I'm just kind of revamping these videos because I'm sure that there's better ways for me to explain this stuff, but I think I need to just get it out from my brain onto video for you to digest, because there are so many people that don't know this stuff and it's essential. See you on the other side. We've done most of this before, so I'm actually just going to start skipping over things because it is now assumptive knowledge. I assume you know this. If you don't know this, watch the first episode again, watch the second episode again. This stuff is to build you the absolute fundamentals. So if there's something you don't understand, it's in one of these. And if not, there's a purpose for it not being in one of them, so go and do your own research, but now at least you have the terminology, you have the basis to be able to work from. With that said, we are going to take the C major scale and start finding chords. So there's our musical alphabet. I have, like last week, omitted the D flats and the E flats and the G flats and the A flats and the B flats because there's just no need for them at this point. And I'm not using them in the example, but they exist, don't get confused. Now, there are 7 degrees in the C major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. As we learnt last week, there is a tone between here. Tone, semitone, tone, 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 and then semitone in there. So that becomes tone, tone, semitone, that's an S, tone, 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 semi, and 8. Semitone. To build a C major chord, which is what we are trying to build today. That's what all we're working on is chords, but all this stuff that if you don't know what I'm talking about at this point, go back, watch the previous videos. To build a major chord out of the C major scale, we take the first, the third, and the fifth. Can you guess what they are before I give you the answer? If you guessed C, E, and G, you'd be correct. Why? Because we've got the first, the second, the third, right? We're looking for the first, the third, and the fifth. First scale degree, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Okay, so we take the first, the third, and the fifth, we get C, E, and G. Now that we've got that, we know that this is the first chord in the C major scale. C to E, it is called 1/3. Why? Because it's an interval of a third. It's a third away, right? A first, a second, and a third. And this all comes from a reference point. If you have a reference point of F, this is the reference point, making the reference point 1. So F becomes 1, G becomes 2, and A becomes 3, right? So if we need to go a third away from F, we go up to A. This also works in the reverse. I'm not going to focus on going backwards, but it's the same principle. It's just how far away is a third from the F. 1, 2, 3, okay? In this case, we're going from C to E. It is a third away. We're then taking another third to the G, right? We get our 2/3 stacked together, right? And we get ourselves a C major chord. Now, if we want to find a D chord, we do the same principle. We go a third away from D. D, E, F, right? And then a third away from F is A. G, A. I'm actually going to start using this reference because you're getting the idea at this point. So to fill the rest of this out, it's G and B, because we're going a third and a third, and then F, A, C, G, B, D, because we're going G, B, and then to assume what's next after C, it's D, so G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, and F. Okay? Great. We now have every single chord that is in the C major scale. This is really, really powerful, okay? And the way that I've just laid it out means that it's really easy to reference this. This is what I used in uni to be able to understand what chords was on the manuscript and basically give myself a ticket to really easily understanding what is going on. Now, there is something to consider here. These are built on what's called stacked thirds. So we've gone a third away from C and then a third away from E to make ourselves a C major triad. As you can see, between C and E, there is a tone to D and a tone to E. All right, put that in brackets there. Or we've got two tones. This is called a major third. Okay? Because we're two tones. When we go from E to G, we've got a semitone to F, and then we've got a tone to G. Right? So then we've got one tone plus semitone. That is, oh, I shouldn't have drawn that box. Minor third. From C to G, we have a perfect fifth. Right? If you're lost at the moment about your thirds and your fifths and blah, 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 that was in last week's lesson. Go watch that. We know that we need a first, a third, and a fifth to make up a scale. To determine whether the chord is a major or minor chord, we need to figure out the distance between the first and the second note in the chord. If this is two tones distance, it means we've got a major third. Then what you do to finish off the chord is you stack a minor third on top of that. The distance of a major third and a minor third equals a perfect fifth. This is important. So at this stage, we know to make a major triad, we need a major third and a minor third. Okay? C to E to G. To E to G. We've got a major third, M3 and mini M3. That makes up our major chord. If we go to DFA, which is our D chord from here, this is built from a minor third and a major third. Man, I need to work on my handwriting. How do I know it's a minor third and a major third? Because we need to look up here. This has a tone and a semitone, right? That means that this distance between the D and the F is a tone and a semitone, or a minor third. The distance between F and A is, guess what? Two tones, or a major third. So here we've got C major chord, and we've got D minor. I really highly encourage you to write this all out. Start with the alphabet, then draw this little bit out. Then after that, try and work out which chords are major and which chords are minor using the reference of the alphabet. Because when you're referencing back to the alphabet, you know, there's no confusion. It's C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, that's it, right? If you're trying to go from C to C sharp and you think that there's a tone in the way, what note exists between here? None. So it must be a semitone, okay? Really, really simple when you start doing it. Next piece of paper. Let's do A minor. There's A, C, E, B, D, F, C, E, G, D, F, A, E, G, B, F, A, C, G, B, D. We need to start looking at the musical alphabet again because immediately we're starting in a different place and we're going for a minor chord. We know that we need to remove the notes here. So we've got a tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone, tone, and then tone. T, S, T, T, S, T, T. A to B is a tone, B to C is a semitone. So we've got a minor third here, and we've got a major third here. So that makes a minor chord. Right, BDF, we've actually got, this is confusing, so I'm going to leave this one out for the minute and we'll come back to that shortly. CEG, we've got two tones, a semitone and a tone. So we've got C major, okay? major, minor. Right, DFA, D, semitone. Immediately we know we've got a minor. EGB, I know that that's a minor. FAC, major. And GBD is a major. Before we move on, I'm going to outline why this one is unique. I actually also ignored it in the C major scale because it is unique, and I'm only going to touch on it here. If we're building the chord B to C, C to D, D to E, and E to F, we've got a semitone, we've got a tone, we've got a tone, and a semitone, right? So altogether, we've got a minor third, followed by another minor third. Okay? This doesn't fall into either a major or a minor chord because it's two minor thirds in a row. It's not a major third followed by a minor third. It's not a minor third followed by a major third. It's two minor thirds, right? This is called a diminished triad. That's really all you need to know there. If you stack two major thirds on each other, it's an augmented triad, okay? This happens in other scales, not in this scale. I'm not gonna touch on it here today, but they exist, okay? With all of that in mind, we now get to look at something slightly more interesting, which is going to be a lot of personal study material for you. So let's take the C major scale again. Here's the octave, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, dot, 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 right? This just keeps going. If you play the C major scale from the lowest note possible to the highest note possible, it's just going to keep going in this pattern forever. As we know scale degrees, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Say, for example, we need some seventh chords, because they're quite common. We have our standard C, E, G, right, which is built up of the thirds. If we add another third onto that, we get B, right? This makes a C major 7 chord. Yep, that's a 3. C major 7 chord. Okay? If we add in another third on that, we get a C9. That's a D. If we add in a third on that, we get an 11. We add a third on that, we get a 13. Okay? It's terrible. This is how we build seventh chords, okay? It's how we kind of access anything. If anyone says play in tens, it means that you play with this interval and this interval, right? If you notice, this interval is the same as the third, except it's an octave up. It has a super sweet sound. When you're playing with intervals, you can make up chords, you can do whatever you want. Let's say we've got a C sus4 chord. C sus4. We take the standard C, E, G, we suspend the third and make it a fourth, F, right? So we've got C, F, G here, right? Now that technically would be 1, 4, 5, which then it's still a triad because it's 3 notes played together, but we're just taking different intervals and putting them together. Equally, if we take the C, E, G, and we want to make it a sus2, we take that down to the next one, and that becomes C, D, G. This is how we make chords. If we go a C add 6, we just get a C, E, G, and add a 6 in there. This is really simple, but you've got a way to communicate what you've been hearing, what you've been playing for years. And the more that you work on this stuff, the more doors you're going to open for yourself. And I really recommend, like, so this little chart that I drew before, the C, D, E, F, G, blah, blah, blah. These, if you keep going with the sevenths, right? So you add on what's a third above a 7, a third above a G, it's a B. What's a third above an A, it's a C. What's a third above an E, it's a D. You keep adding on those. You've then got all the seventh chords that are in the C major scale. So immediately, once again, you've got a new palette to use straight away. Highly recommend this. So, and that pretty much sums up what I've got to say about this. So let's go back to the other cam. All right, sweet, we made it to the end of week 3. I'm really glad that you did. I'm really glad that you persevered through this, because if you practice this, if you choose to try and understand this in different keys, you apply it to the A minor, but then you apply it to the B minor, and you start playing the chords in the B minor scale, you start playing chords in the E major scale, all these different things, you're gonna notice that, oh, my band wants to play this, they're in this rough key, you know, maybe it's E minor. I know what chords to use, and all of a sudden, my band's like, wow, where did you learn that? And it's like, oh, it's not hard, I'm just playing the chords in the scale. I know that I can use these 7 chords very safely and it's gonna sound good. You're miles ahead of the rest. Equally, when you learn these scales, pay attention to the songs you are playing. Okay, on the chord chart, it says I go from, you know, G major to A minor to B diminished to C major. And you're like, why is that? Oh, we're in the key of G major and we're just following the chords 1, 2, 3, 4 up in the G major scale, right? There are millions of songs. Every single song that you have heard, which talks about like a 1, 6, 4, 5 progression, it's just the first chord, the 6th chord, the 4th chord, and the 5th chord in that key. Exactly the way that I've shown you today. You play those chords, you've got yourself a #1 hit. So I hope that all made sense. Please like, please comment, please subscribe. If you have any questions, either leave them in the comments below, because if there's an easy answer and someone in the future has this problem, then someone's going to have an answer, whether it's me or someone else, I don't know, but someone will have an answer in there. If the question is good enough, I'm going to make my own video about it, specifically answering that. Other than that, I hope you liked it. If you want a lesson, if you want to communicate with me on a kind of one-to-one basis, then just send me an email from the email below. Other than that, I shall see you next week for some more music business stuff. So I'll catch you then. Bye.